Hi there, friends. Welcome to Stampin' Peace with Mary Nabe. It is Monday, January 30th. I hope you had a fabulous weekend. I was away most of the weekend. Last year, I went to a scrapbooking event. I was invited by two other friends and had a really great time, so I signed up for the same crop the same weekend this year. And so I was in Millersburg or Berlin, like Holmes County, Ohio, kind of Amish country. Really nice Berlin resort and conference center, and met some great people, learned some things, and just had a lot of fun. And I'm signed up to do it again next year. And I have found that when I'm hosting my own Creative Escape weekends, I'm very busy with taking care of my guests. It's an event that I can take up to 60 people, and just trying to coordinate things, make sure my guests are happy and things are going well. Do they need things? Do they need help? Can I answer questions? That sort of thing. And I find myself not being able to really accomplish much when it comes to card making and scrapbooking. And it's been a very long time since I've been scrapbooking. And as you know, Andrea and John got married last year, June 26th. So I've had the pictures, most of them printed, and wanting to do some scrapbook, but I haven't started. And now that they're having a baby in July and I'll be wanting to scrapbook for the new baby, I thought I better get going on this scrapbook from their wedding. And it was a lot of fun. I got a lot done. I still have a ways to go. But it was very, what do I say? Just kind of invigorating, re-energizing to do something completely different than I'm doing every single day, and to take time to work on a project just for me. So I had a great scrapbook weekend. It is hosted by a consultant of another direct sales company, and she did a few classes throughout the weekend, and I wanted to do that, and I took on her challenges and things like that. So today's Facebook Live is all about how to, I'm going to give you some quick and easy tips for incorporating your favorite designer series papers into your scrapbook pages in a very easy way that still makes a great impact. I'm a believer of I need to get these photos on pages. I need to mark them, the people, the places, the dates, the event, that sort of thing. So for me, I may do, say, out of 10 scrapbook pages, I may do one or two that are sort of a next level, a little fancier, a little more involved. And then I do several that are simple, because my goal is I need to get something done. And I don't have the time to spend hours and hours on a 2-page spread, even though some people do that and they're beautiful and I love them. I know that that's not quite my style. So I want to pass on to you some ways I use designer series paper on my scrapbooks. And I will show you some of the pages I made this weekend, and then we'll talk about them and go from there. So you won't actually see me completing a project today, but I hope for those of you that are scrapbookers, you will enjoy this presentation. For those of you who have been thinking about scrapbooking and maybe think, oh, it's too much. I see lots of elaborate scrapbook pages, people doing amazing things. You know what? You can do amazing scrapbooks too, and they can be simple, and they can be fun, and they can even be quick. So I'm going to show you how to use the DSP in different ways. Plus, I'm going to share with you a tip for cutting mats for your photos from a 12 by 12 sheet of cardstock with minimal waste, okay? All right, I'm going to flip my camera around now. While I do that, would you please be so kind as to share this live video and invite others to join us on this Monday, January 30th. Can hardly believe it's the end of another month. Okay, these are just sitting on my desk, so I'm going to show you. These are from last Wednesday evening's Facebook Live, just making some fun Valentine treats. You can easily replicate this idea for any occasion, use any colors that are appropriate or fitting. But after I did that, I thought, well, I want to take a little something to my friends that I would be scrapbooking with on the weekend. So I gave them some chocolate treats, and I used the Alphabest stamp set and punch and put their names on, excuse me, put their names on all of those. So it was just a quick, fun, easy way to gift my friends with a little treat. If you're interested in that demonstration, you can find it here on Stampin' Piece with Mary Nabe, dated January 25th in the video section, and it will be posted to my blog in the next day or two. Okay, so for today, I pulled a piece or a pack of black and white designer series paper, and it's called Perfectly Penciled. You can find it in our annual catalog, but it's all black and white. One side is kind of small prints, geometric shapes, things like that. And the other side is all florals. You can color them, you can work with them, black and white, and we'll go from there, okay? So let's get started. So one way you can use your designer series paper is simply by cutting it in half and then adhering it I pulled out several of these. I'm just using Stampin' Up's white cardstock, basic white 12 by 12 cardstock. And then what I like to do is, and you might want to use a ruler or something just to kind of get it straight. So this is a 12 by 12 inch piece of white cardstock. And I'm just going to line that up on the edge of my 12 inch ruler. And then I want to make sure that the 6 inch by 12 inch strip of DSP is centered. Let me raise this up a little bit more. Trying to get in as much of that as we can. And what I'm going to do, 12 inches minus 6 inches is 6. Half of 6 is 3 inches. So I need to be sure I have 3 inches above and below my DSP. And I simply press it down. Same thing with the other side. Now, when I do this technique, you can use any measurement, any width you like. I typically use 6 inch strips or 4 inch strips. So this is an example of cutting one sheet of DSP in half and, oh, come on, and using that 6 inch by 12 inch piece of DSP sort of as the background, as the center, the focal point and I don't have to add a whole lot more, okay? Yes, a scoreboard can be great also for getting your measurements correct, Marion. Here is an example of a couple pages I did this weekend using that idea of putting a DSP square across the middle of a plain sheet of cardstock. On these sheets, instead of doing 6 inches, I did 4 inches. Okay. Kathy, yes, you can color the DSP. Blends and markers, if watercolor pencils, yes. If you use Stampin' Blends, the ink will bleed to the other side, so just be aware of that if you were planning to use both sides for some reason. So on these family pictures, I just used a piece of designer series paper 4 inches wide for each of those. And from there, it's very simple pages, isn't it? But just that little DSP takes those pages from plain to pretty. Okay, and again, here is what it looks like using 6-inch wide strips. Okay, the next thing I like to do with my DSP, let me pick which one I want to use here. I think I'll use this one. This would be a pretty one to color, but I also like doing black and white projects as well, or black and white with just a punch of color. So for this one, I'm going to cut 2 3-inch strips. So again, I'm using half. And if I wanted to do multiple pages that had some kind of connecting element, I might go ahead and cut the other half of this DSP into 2 3-inch strips. I'm also going to show you how you can actually use your trimmer here to, don't forget your trimmer can also be used as your guide for measuring, okay? Because it too starts at 12 inches and it actually goes to 12.5. So just be careful of that when you are using this as your guide for measuring. Push your cardstock or DSP all the way to the top, and then at the bottom, past the 12 inches, you have a little 1/2 inch bit left over. Still isn't quite as high as I want it. That arm is not bending easily for me, so I'm just gonna stick with it. Okay, so then what I like to do is just take these 3-inch strips, and again, you can vary the width of your strips. You can even maybe mat these or mount these with solid cardstock on each side or on one side. You can push them all the way to the edge of your cardstock, or you can pull them away from the edge of the cardstock and leave a little border of color behind. And when I scrapbook, I typically am working in groups of 2. So I'm doing a 2-page spread at one time. Unless it happens to be maybe a title page or, you know, a new section of the book or a brand new book, and I want a nice front title page. Sometimes too, it ends up people want to do that on the back end of their scrapbook. But I typically work in groups of 2 sheets. Okay. Oh, I didn't put that one the same way. I showed it 2 different ways and adhered it 2 different ways. So there's a second idea. All right, now let me show you what I made this weekend with that idea. Okay, these are parents and immediate families from the wedding. Now here, Carrie had all her border punches and materials out for us to borrow. And being that I use Stampin' Up! Products all the time, I thought, well, I'm going to try something different. And I found this pretty border punch she had. And I used that. So I cut my 3-inch strips, but I used the border punch to make this pretty edge. And you can do that with any kind of border punch you have. You can also use regular punches and just go along at even intervals, okay? But you see the same idea. I could have left these plain and not put that fancy edge on, and it would be the same use as I just showed you previously, okay? Tanya, yes, we do sell 12 by 12 white cardstock. It is in the annual catalog. Now for the next one, she did a little demonstration and then gave us a challenge. And I'm trying to decide which one I want to use. And this was pretty much the challenge. Pick a piece of DSP where you really like both sides of the DSP. And you want to use it. And for me, that's really easy to do because I love Stampin' Up! Designer Series papers. And typically I love both sides of most of them. But what you want to do is, and I'm going to work with 3 inches. And again, you could do 2 sheets of this, do 2 pages, a side-by-side 2-page spread. This is sort of like a specialty page. So this might be a great way to open a scrapbook with a title page and one photo that basically would tell the story all by itself. So I've taken my 12 by 12 DSP, I've scored it at 3 inches. Again, you can vary the width as you want. And what I'm going to do is just fold this over. Give it a good crease with my bone folder. I'm going to adhere this so it remains flat. And then I'm going to add this to, oops, hold on. Add this to a piece of 12 by 12 cardstock. You can put this right in the center if you like and put your photo in the center. You can have your photo or a couple photos off on the darker side, right across both layers. You can move this more towards the left. You can move it more towards the right. For this demonstration, I'm putting mine right in the middle. And Carrie called this the fold over technique. Okay, easy to remember, right? The fold over technique. And a lot of times, depending on your DSP and what look you want, you can work this both directions also. If you wanted, you could take a second piece of that. Let me pull it out here. And if I wanted a 2-page spread with this fold over idea, what I would do is just, oh, this arm is driving me nuts. It's not staying where I want it. What I would do is score it at 3 inches from the opposite side, okay? So that means I'd have 9 inches on my left and 3 inches on the right when I score. And then I would fold this, give it a good crease with my bone folder. How many of you are scrapbookers out there? Some of you are card makers, some of you are scrapbookers, and some like to do both, like me. And I'm trying hard to give myself some more time. I've been feeling a little creative burnout in my Stampin' Up! Business, believe it or not. That doesn't happen to me very often. But, you know, I think getting away this weekend and working on a project for me and doing some things are a little bit different than I do every day here in my Stampin' P studio was really good for me. And I'm feeling energized in lots of different ways. So here, I've just folded the opposite ends, and now I can use these as a 2-page layout. I can also flip them and put the folded section in the middle. Most often when I scrapbook, I do, let me pull these others back out. I do like to have the flexibility of using my pages in different ways. So I might use them like this, these two, or I could switch them and put the print right in the middle of the layout. See that? All right, so let me show you here. So this is what I use. Some of you may be recognizing the DSP from the different pages that I'm showing you. This is from Ever Eden. It is not current, but it is a Stampin' Up! Product that we had out probably about 2 years ago. And some of this DSP is what I used to used for the inspiration for the save the date. We use some on wedding invitations, that sort of thing. So here you can see another example of that fold over technique. I took a piece of DSP that I really liked. I scored it at 3 inches and folded it over. And before I actually added it or adhered it, I again used that flourish border punch that Carrie had to make a pretty kind of elegant border. Cut some letters on my Cricut. Yes, I even pulled out my Cricut, dusted it off, turned it on, and used it just a little bit. I was so impressed with my friend Tracy, though. She had a goal of learning to use her Cricut in new ways, and she was doing awesome things with it. So that, too, is very inspiring. And then if you didn't already know, these are my girls. Andrea, the bride, and the new mom, expecting July 8th. And I think some of you did hear that she's having a girl. So we're very excited. And yesterday when we were all there, she kind of did a little game. And we found out the baby's name is going to be Riley Marie. Riley Marie. And then this is my younger daughter, Emily, who of course will be, you know, the favorite aunt, I'm sure. But anyways, a fun way to use a single sheet of DSP. And again, you can use it different ways. I could have used my DSP in this direction, or this direction, or off to this side. So you get how I'm saying that? You can take something very simple, very basic, and turn it in whichever direction you like. All right. And remember, on my example, where is it here? I put my fold over sheet right in the center. But here's an example of how I pushed it more towards the right side and then gave myself some empty space for a title. And I've got one photo on it, one very special page, but it's still very simple, right? Very simple. Okay, and then I won't be showing you this, but I will just throw it in there. This was another challenge Carrie had for us, to cut a single large circle from a piece of 12 by 12 specialty paper, designer series paper. And then she taught us how to mark top, bottom, left and right, and then the diagonal points. And from there, we just punched at those points, used the punch, turned it again, made the same point marks, and then punched in between our first set of punches. So I'm not going to show you that today, but I thought this was really fun. And it took me one practice, and I tried again, and I came out with this, and I was really pleased with the way it worked out. So I thought I'd share that. And these are John's nephew and niece, Ben and Charlie. And they're very excited about having a new cousin, let me tell you. Okay, the last thing I want to show you is you can use, and I've got a trick to show you with this. So pretend I'm just going to use this as the background sheet, my main sheet for my photos. Now I'm going to share with you, one second. I'm going to share with you how to cut your cardstock mats from a piece of 12 by 12 cardstock with little waste, okay? Now, when you think about it, when we get our photos printed, they are generally 4 inches by 6 inches, right? Let me write this down here so you can see as I'm thinking out loud. So generally, when we get our photos printed, they're 4 inches by 6 inches, right? Some people will do 1/2 inch border, some 1/4 inch, whatever you like. I prefer to do a 4 1/4 inch by a 6 1/4 inch border. So for this, now you know, this is not wide enough for me to cut. Yes, I can cut 4 1/4, but I can't get 2 6 1/4 inch rectangles side by side. So you might find other ways to cut it, but you end up wasting more cardstock than we need to. So here, if I add the 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, that gives me 10 2/4, which is the same as 10 1/2 inches. So this is what I'm working with. So I'm going to take, does everybody see how I got to that? You add the length and the width of your photos. Add the length and width of your photos. And this does work. This formula works with any size photos. All right. So if you've got 4 photos that measure 3 1/2 by 5, figure out what you want the mat size to be, and then add the length and width of the mat size together. And that gives you the dimension you need for your square. So for me to cut out 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 mats, I need a square that measures 10 1/2 inches. So that's what I'm going to do now. I have this 12 by 12 sheet of cardstock, and I'm going to cut it down to a 10 1/2 inch square. So I'm left with 1/2 inch by 12 inches. I'm going to hang on to that because that would make a nice little edge or border for a future scrapbook page. Turn my cardstock, and again, I'm going to measure to 10 1/2 inches and cut there another 1 1/2 inch strip. Now, so I've got my 10 1/2 inch square that I figured out with my formula, right? So it's math, but it's easy math. You can all do it, all right? Now, I'm going to pick one dimension. I'm picking the 4 1/4. That's easy because I can fit it right here, 6 1/4 long. So I don't have to pull out my arm if I choose the 4 1/4 dimension. So with this, I'm setting my cardstock at 4 1/4, and I want to cut down to 6 1/4. And there's 2 ways you can do that. You can just bring your blade down, and our blades have a little line indentation on each side that tells you exactly where the point of the blade is. So you're going to take that down till that line lines up with the dimension you want, 6 1/4 inches, and cut. The other way some people like to do it is to bring their blade down to 6 1/4 first, push it down, and then cut. All right. Now, I'm going to turn my cardstock and again, put it at 4 1/4 inches. And I'm just going to bring that blade down until it meets the first cut. And there's one of my mats, cut 4 1/4 by 6 inches. Again, I'm going to turn my cardstock and place it at 4 1/4 inches. Now, at some point, you're going to be thinking, and I taught this after I was shown it at the weekend event. I taught it to 2 other of my friends that were there, and each time they stopped at the very same point I did and said, this can't be right, this can't be right, it's not going to work. And I could not convince them. All I could say to them was, trust me, I understand it doesn't look like it's going to turn out correctly, but it will. Trust me. And that's what I'm saying to you. Trust the process. So again, I'm at 4 1/4 inches, cutting. Again, turn that cardstock and place the left edge at 4 1/4 inches. Trim on down. It's coming to 6 1/4. There's a 3rd and a 4th mat, and you're left with this little square, which you can choose to do something with. All right. So right there, I have 4 equal size photo mats, 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 inches. Super easy, right? And here, let's do it this way. Well, you can see it on here. And you can use these any way, but honestly, it works out so well that you can do 2 vertical and 2 horizontal mats then on your 12 by 12 sheet of DSP. If you want, you can add this to the middle, maybe layer it with a flower or something fun, okay? But isn't that genius? When I learned that, I was like, who knew? How easy, right? How easy, how fun. And doing it this way, you have very little waste. You've got strips here that you can use for other things. You can use them on other pieces of, or other pages for just a simple edge, left or right edge, or you could use it at the top or the bottom. You could cut banners with them and use, do a banner punch and use that as a decorative piece, right? So very little waste for me to make these 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 mats. And again, this works for any size photo. Back in the day, a lot of photos were print 3.5 by 5 inches. So if I were wanting to cut mats for 3.5 by 5 inch photos, I would want my mats to be 3 by 3 1/4. Yours might be different if you want a wider or a thinner border. So 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. If I add those to numbers together, I would have 8 plus 4 4/4 equals 9 inches. And this is the measurement I would use to cut my 4 equal size mats. All right. So here's my example from the weekend after Carrie taught us that. All right. So I had 4 photos. This was at my house in the morning. We got hair and makeup done at my house. And then I just added those 4x6 photos to my 4 1/4 by 6 1/4 mats that I just cut from the one sheet of cardstock. I used that square that was left from the middle and just said, just a quick little title or note, we are wedding ready. And that's it. Quick and easy, right? Kathy, I agree with you. I don't journal a whole lot. I might have certain statements. In fact, well, someday when this is all done, when this project's all done, I'll share it because people have asked me to do that. But here, let me move this. The one on one page in particular, dropped it. On one page in particular, we have John's niece, and you know what? I can probably find it really quick. But she's just as cute as could be, Charlie. She wasn't even 2 years old yet at the wedding, and she did great. And she would practice in the bride suite and stuff, and she would say, Charlie walk aisle, as she was practicing in her pretty dress. But I want to show you this, just because Kathy made me think of it. Here it is. Kathy made me think of it. But these are so fun. These are so fun. Can you see those up close? That's Charlie looking at the dress. And here she just, she just kind of burst with excitement. It's one of my favorite photos from the wedding. But I thought that might be a good place to just put a very small banner that said, Charlie walk aisle in quotes, because that's just a fun memory for all of us, of her saying that and being so excited. So I hope you picked up some good tips today for you to do some easy, simple, quick scrapbooking. Remember, it's about making memories and then putting memories on pages. We don't have to have super elaborate pages. Sometimes just a little bit of color or design from our designer series paper is just what we need. And then whether you choose to mat or not is your decision. But if you do like to mat your photos, you learned a quick and easy way to cut 4 equal mats from a square sheet of cardstock. And again, I gave you the formula to figure that out. All right. All right. Any questions? Any questions? I want to zip back here and see if I missed any during the live. I like to do that. Okay. Okay, I don't think I missed any questions. Okay, I won't be sending scrapbook pages to you, but just as a little thank you for watching, your names will be entered into a drawing to receive a sampling of the Perfectly Penciled Designer Series paper. I will send a 4x6 sample of each paper to 2 different people. So in the comment section now, please type Perfectly Penciled. That's the name of the DSP I used for today's demonstration. Perfectly penciled. Perfectly penciled, okay? And later today, I will draw 2 names for 2 lucky winners and get that those samples out in the mail this week. It's snowing here in Ohio. Just about 30 minutes before I went live, I ran upstairs to get something and I could see it was snowing, starting to stick. So I'm curious. I haven't listened to the news to find out if we're supposed to have accumulation or not, but it looks like a pretty snowfall. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your Monday, and I look forward to seeing you again Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on Stampin' Peace with Mary Nabe. Happy stamping and stay well.